Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, back to another edition of Hollywood Backlot with Lou and Hugh. This is a very special episode because today, primarily, we're going to be focused on what is called the 30-mile zone. And Lou, do you want to give our viewers some insight into what the 30-mile zone or the TMZ is?
Well, it has to do with, of course, unions. If they picked a spot in the middle of town, and the spot happens to be kind of historic for other reasons, but it's the intersection of Beverly and La Cienega, basically. And that intersection right there, where you can see the Beverly Center Shopping Center, and off on the right, that Cedars-Sinai Hospital, that is the center of a 30-mile radius, a circle. And the idea is, if we're shooting a movie anywhere inside that circle, I can tell everybody involved, be there and be square and drive yourself and bring your own lunch. And we're not putting you up overnight because it's close enough to town that we shouldn't have to. And anything outside the zone, I've got to get you to the studio on your own, but then I've got to take a bus or cars. I've got to feed you on location and all those other things I'd rather not pay for if I'm the studio. The good news for the studios was they picked well, because inside of that 30-mile zone, there are such a panoply, a plethora of potential locations, both natural and modern, that you can shoot a whole heck of a lot of movies in that 30-mile zone, and will if you can. So we're going to today explore all the famous places you've seen in TV shows and movies that are within the zone. And then, of course, the other funny thing about the 30-mile zone, which is abbreviated TMZ, is that's how the Gossip Hollywood show picked their name, TMZ. So now you know the rest of the story on that one. And Vash was saying, what else is around there? And I'm looking, first of all, over here on the right, these kind of bluish buildings with the white uprights. That's the massive Cedars-Sinai Hospital complex and attendant medical buildings. And lots of famous people died there or had operations there or were rushed there by ambulance from their homes in Beverly Hills. Now, this is not Beverly Hills. This is along the border of the city of Beverly Hills. Beverly Hills is only 6 square miles. And as I was explaining, people go through great lengths. You know, when you see real estate ads and it says such and such adjacent. Well, to give you another example, very near to here is the Four Seasons Luxury Hotel, which most people think is the Four Seasons Beverly Hills. But literally, it's on Doheny, and it's across the street. The border of the city of Beverly Hills runs up and down Doheny, and so they call it the Four Seasons at Beverly Hills.
Oh,
so Beverly Center is not named after Beverly Hills. It's named after Beverly Boulevard, which is not Beverly Drive. So there's a lot of Beverlys involved. But the other more famous thing about where this shopping center is that this is the Sofitel right here in the middle, in front of it. And if you go right to the intersection there, right on that intersection, this building on the left where you see it says, what does it say? Gallery Ann Taylor, ATM Taylor. Anyway, this was the old original Owl Rexall drugstore, which the building has been rebuilt, but the inside is relatively similar to the way it always was. But across the way where you see this big TV screen on the corner, that was a barbecue joint that basically was about the size and shape of a diner called Smoky Joe's. And just down, we're looking south now, from Smoky Joe's, which is probably to about this driveway entrance is all, was a thing called Beverly Park. And Beverly Park had a merry-go-round and a Dodgem cars and a couple of very rudimentary dark rides, and was really the first amusement park in West LA. And that is where, not Griffith. Griffith was certainly where he did a lot of taking his kids, but he used to take his kids here. And supposedly this is the merry-go-round that he sat on the bench and said, I see what's problem is. All the little girls are fighting, not the boys, the girls, over who gets to ride the white horse. Therefore, when I build Disneyland, we're going to paint them all white, which was a rather novel concept to purists in the merry-go-round biz. But also beyond there was a thing called the pony rides, which was a bunch of very sleepy and elderly Shetland ponies that your parent would put you on it and they would ride it around a ring. And I'm sure you'll find old pictures of all of this. But you might say that's also the precursor in Walt's mind of the old original pack mules at Disneyland that used to take you through nature's wonderland, the same place that the Rainbow Caverns train went. A lot of relevant history, but the main point of showing this spot is to show just how far out 30 miles can be from here. And I don't know which of the many locations we talked about you want to go to first. What do you say, Vash? Pick one from that list I gave you and we'll go.
What about the pier?
Okay, the Santa Monica Pier. Because you might think, well, we're in the middle of a big city, but remember that Los Angeles and Santa Monica are a coastal city. And this is the Santa Monica Pier, which in the old days was your classic rickety whatever. A little further down towards Venice was the next pier, which was POP, Pacific Ocean Park, an early theme park of sorts. But this one is famous for a movie. This is the famous merry-go-round cum brothel of The Sting. And if you go right up to the top of the ramp there and look out towards the ocean, all of this ocean back here and beach, in the movie, that's the city of Chicago. They put the camera here, they took a picture, and then the great Al Whitlock, famous matte artist, painted in the entire city of Chicago out there, where in fact all there is now the merry-go-round and a couple of bars and a couple of shops and a couple of other rides. Over here on the right, these kind of Moorish things with this top knot on it. That's the merry-go-round from The Sting, and it's been used in a zillion movies since. But all the rest of this may magically disappear by the magic of the movies. So if you saw, for example, our foray into The Sting with the genre guys, that's where they shot it, among other places. A lot of TV shows. Seems like every time David Jansen as the fugitive went to any kind of little carny or amusement or pier, this was the one. Because it was, again, within the zone and therefore economically viable. But and then, of course, like I say, the POP, which is south down the coast in Venice, was a much bigger amusement thing.
Wow.
And actually, at that pier, I think they're still in this, yeah, that would be in the zone. If you go to Venice Pier instead of this one, you see how it all goes out, and then there's a bigger section of the pier out at the end. By the way, on the left there, where you can kind of see a red cross, that's the Coast Guard and the L.A. County Baywatch, the L.A. County Lifeguard Station for the pier.
Gotcha.
But down at POP, they had a sky ride that went out to the end of the pier and back, and it was something. And down there at Venice Pier was all kinds of old-fashioned carny amusements. Then there were piers all the way down the way. But anyway, if you wondered why we had so many beach-based movies and TV shows, and in fact, if I can imply where we should go next for something completely different, there is a very famous episode that was shot on the beach just north of the Santa Monica Pier of a very famous superhero and a very famous supervillain having a surfing contest. And that would be Batman 66 versus Cesar Romero, the Joker. There, and Commissioner Gordon and Chief O'Hara wearing baggy shorts and sunglasses, and it's a lot of fun. Also within the zone, in a completely different direction, is a little place called Griffith Park. And that was a huge chunk of land that a Colonel Griffith gave to the city as kind of LA's version of Central Park. I think if you pull back, you can see what a big hunk of wilderness it is in the middle of the city and the valley. Golf course, it's where the LA Zoo is. There was an older zoo that showed up in a lot of movies in the old days, and then they built the new one. It's also where Walt's famous other merry-go-round is, the one where he said he sat there eating peanuts and thinking there should be a place built. And it's also where Walt's Railroad Barn is now. They dragged it over there. And you can go over there. I think it's 1 or 2 Saturdays a month that they have it open with volunteers and see all of Walt's remaining personal train set over there. Oh, also, of course, the observatory is there. There's the famous observatory that we've all seen in a zillion sci-fi movies. Also, down under that road from the observatory, down below, see that cave down there? That's really a tunnel. It's a highway tunnel. Go to that one. That's not the Batcave, but there's a tunnel under the mountain there. Every episode, it seems, of Mission Impossible TV show, where at the end they're all driving away and the camera goes upside down. It's kind of a big flourish. That's the one. It's been the border of more fictional countries on Mission Impossible than I care to calculate. But go ahead and tell it the Batcave or whatever, and we'll go see the real thing. There it is.
There it is.
There it is. And it actually has 3 holes, so to speak. And there's 2 on this side, and they both join up inside the mountain and come out the other side. And there it is. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Should be a sign saying Gotham, so many miles. And, of course, they had the fake foliage doors. But as you can see, it's a great location, not only for the cave and the rocks, but you got a nice big parking lot for the crew here. And I bet you'll find lots of production stills showing the crew out there with the Batmobile and everything. But the other famous thing that was shot here, a lot of horror movies and sci-fi movies used to use this all the time, and Westerns. But the really famous, there's the other end, see? That cave is in a sci-fi movie starring Lee Van Cleef and Peter Graves. I think it's called It Conquered the World. And it is this ultimately stupid-looking monster that kind of looks like an upside-down carrot with these big eyes. The finale of the movie, the monster's been living in the cave, and it comes rumbling out, and the army is there with artillery, and that won't stop it. And of course, an artillery shell won't stop it, but Lee Van Cleef with an old-fashioned blowtorch can burn its eyes out and kill it. And the thing about this scene is, first of all, when it comes out of the cave, this is not a guy in a suit monster. This is a sitting on casters and being pushed monster. And you can see, if you look closely in that movie, you can see this 2x4 being pushed by somebody in the shadows of the cave to literally roll this thing out there. The second famous thing about this is that when he finally goes there to burn out the eyes in this black and white movie from the 50s, early 60s, I think more 50s. What they used to use in a lot of black and white movies for blood is Hershey sauce, chocolate sauce, because it had the right viscosity and it photographed like blood in black and white. Well, they had this thing with a tank in it full of Hershey's, but somebody did not adjust the pressure right. So when Lee Van Cleef goes up to it with this blowtorch and starts burning it, it sprayed him, the camera crew, and everybody with chocolate sauce, and actually ruined a very expensive rented camera. So it kind of upped the budget on that thing. And because of all this lore about it, Frank Zappa wrote a wonderful ode to cheap science fiction, and the song is literally called Cheapness, Cheepnis. And you can find that Frank Zappa song out there, too. So you didn't think you were going to get a rock and roll reference at the Batcave, but there you go.
I did not think I was going to get that, and I'm glad that I did, because that is pretty cool. That's some pretty cool history right there.
But as long as we're talking caves and rocks and scenic things, why don't we hit Vasquez Rocks next? Vasquez was a bandit. Vasquez was a robber and a crook, and he used to hide out among these rocks up north of LA. And if you pull way back, I think first to give people a sense of orientation, that the zone came all the way out here. This is up in what's called Acton, which is on the back road to Vegas from LA. And you can see that there's downtown, but 30 miles still covers that spot. And we were back down here in the middle of town. Anyway, you're all going to know this one. Take a look at that little thumbnail up in the upper left, and then let's go look. Because by golly, that's where Captain Kirk fought the Gorn and every other science fiction thing ever done, and lots of commercials. And as you can see, it's a county park. Anybody can go in there, and anybody can go into any place we've been so far, you can go to and see for yourself. But Vasquez Rocks is those angular science fiction-y looking things. And there's a lot of desert out there on the edge of LA. You have to remember, LA exists mainly because they brought water in. Of course, also out in this part of town, we recently on the Genre Guys did The Last Starfighter, and that trailer park is still there. It's real. It's out there in the desert. Also, lately in this part of the world, not exactly at Vasquez Rocks, but out there around Acton. Yeah, there they are. See the famous angular outer space rocks. But Acton is the home to a bunch of fake Middle Eastern fire bases. All these times when you see a Hollywood TV show like, NCIS or something, and they're going to go to Afghanistan and check out what happened when they blew up the IED, it's all out
Gotcha.
here. And there's actually a whole kind of Arabic village of, similarly designed houses and things. But mostly there's all those, we've seen real pictures when the embeds were there of army bases in the Middle East. So all of that is out there too. Well,
Let's
I tell you
see
what,
here.
as long as we're doing sci-fi, the other building that gets used for a lot of science fiction and a lot of airports is the convention center downtown, the LA Convention Center. And there it is. And once you go around to the front of it at street level, you will see there, I think that first Jackie Chan and what's his name, a movie where they
Rush Hour.
Yeah, they did
The finale
whole
of it
interior
is found
thing.
right here.
But you'll have pictures of the inside, and people recognize how often this has been used as an airport terminal, an exhibition hall, as an alien congress of some kind. But it's all right there, within not very far from City Hall. There, see? And that floor is really kind of nice. It's a map of the world done in the terrazzo or whatever it is on the floor there, the entry hall. And of course, there are huge convention-style meeting rooms all along here. You can see pictures of car shows and things like that. Yeah, the LA Auto Show.
Has that distinctive architecture, and if you look here, this is very, very blurry, but you can kind of see where Jackie Chan would have been kind of.
Like I say, it's been used so many times for so many different things. But at least, that was kind of an afterthought, I think. They first wanted to build an impressive building to spend the taxpayers' money on and entice guests to town. And meanwhile, let's go to City Hall, which you will recognize from the TV original Superman as, I guess it was supposed to be the Daily Planet back then. There it is.
Gotcha.
And
very
right
distinctive.
Is the old Parker Center, that blue building to the right, which has since been superseded. But that was the original police headquarters for so many shows. And that angular building on the left there, to the left of City Hall, the one that's not the one in our foreground, but just behind it, that is the federal courthouse where, among other things, the OJ trial took place.
Whoa.
So there's that. That's not a fictional use. That's the real thing. But this building down here in the front, this was the old, what they called the old Hall of Justice. And because it was the Hall of Justice and the headquarters for all the cops and the lawyers, you see those long windows in the top?
Yes.
If you look close, actually there's about 2 or 3 floors in there, and all the windows have bars. Why? That was the original downtown county jail. And my father told me that when he was going off to join the Navy in World War II, that was also where everybody met up to get on the bus to go to boot camp. And he said the guys in jail were leaning out those windows yelling, "You'll be sorry."
Whoa. Let's see if I can get a street view. And
anyway.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
See
there
the
they
bars
are.
on the windows?
Wow.
That was the jail.
Whoa.
You have to remember that Los Angeles is a relatively young city as far as being modern and urbanized. The city was actually founded. In fact, let's go to Olvera Street, right down the way. Olvera Street was the first street of the little village that became Los Angeles, which I always joke with Lorena about being La Reina, because the full name of the city of Los Angeles, God, it's endless. And it's this whole thing, our city of the Lady of the Miracle of Porcunia, blah, 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 and they shortened it to Los Angeles. Oh, there's the LA Times right there on the right. That one with the, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that would be it. It says the Times.
There's a subtle clue. But all of that other stuff was not there. It was just that building originally. And then it got expanded.
So you're saying Olvera Street. Where can I go from here?
Well, the other side of City Hall, across the freeway. Go to Union Station, because Union Station is in a million movies. Yeah, see that
right here.
with the tile roof. Here's the actual station, and you go in, and it's this gorgeous, gorgeous Spanish deco hallway. There you go. Which again has been in a million movies. But the restaurant, which is famous, I guess, for its appearance in The Way We Were. And then that tall one that you just saw in those pictures is on the other side of the tracks, the modern one, and that's the subway headquarters and things. Because, of course, when Los Angeles, a city of almost no rain and lots of wide boulevards, that they could have put a Disneyland-style T-bar down the middle of those roads and built a monorail for nothing compared to what it costs to burrow through an earthquake zone with a tunnel digger to build a subway. Well, that's politics. Oh, and there was a famous, when you're looking up pictures for this, there's a wall alongside the station where one of the trains got a little rambunctious one day and went right off the end of the track and through a wall. And there's this famous shot of this diesel engine hanging out over the freeway. That was the train station for all of LA. Now, if you go sort of continue to the left a little, and that next building with the kind of minaret dome on it, see that with the dome? That's what's called Terminal Annex. That was the central post office for all of Los Angeles, because it had access to the train. And now if you pan right, or rotate right, I should say, but over here, just across the street from the train station to the left, see that diagonal street? That's Olvera Street with all the tiles.
Oh, yes, yes.
And that's the plaza there. And that little couple of blocks of street that you see above it, it's all Mexican restaurants and curio shops and things like that. But the Avila Adobe, which was the first major house in Los Angeles, is along there. And back in, believe it or not, 1776, this cozy little Spanish missionary town was born, and the rest, as they say, is traffic jams.
Yeah, that's the cool thing about the internet now is that you can actually visit these places and not have to deal with that LA traffic because, man, oh man,
Well, remember
it's not bad around
the
here.
original spiel that the skippers at the Jungle Cruise used to give at the very end when you're coming back into the unload area. They would say, "Now, ladies and gentlemen, the most dangerous part of our journey, civilization and the LA freeways."
That's
So,
right.
I forget what else is on our list. Where are we going from here? How about Wall Street, downtown LA? This area in downtown has the most sort of generically downtown urban looking buildings. Wall Street was actually the home of the wholesale flower market. But all of these streets, not so much those new ones, it's also the garment district of LA. And there's all kinds of great discount clothing and shopping down there. But the
Gotcha.
backs of all of these old brick buildings are on every cop show you've ever seen on television. Shows like, oh, well, for one example, Kojak. They used to get 5, 6, 7 scripts ahead and go to New York for a week and shoot all the famous buildings, you know, the stuff that involved the Statue of Liberty or the Empire State Building. But then all the other stuff and all those chase scenes on the back alleys, that was all down here. All down here. Very, very,
Gotcha.
very busy shooting location. Those buildings you're looking at there are the garment district ones. But you getting the idea, folks. There's nature, there's urban, and that's a very clear day they took this picture. Because it used to be, you know, my parents growing up in LA, my mom was born there. My father's family moved there when he was 3. Would always talk about, you know, smog. What's that? It was always blue skies and crispy clear shots of the hills. And now it's not so much. But,
Yeah, not so much, not anymore. Oh man, yeah, you can kind of see the proximity to downtown Los Angeles right
But again,
there.
look at the variety of places we have looked at, and they're
Right.
all in the zone. Oh, let's go to the Bradbury Building while we're downtown. The Bradbury Building is a wonderful old Victorian thing that I guarantee you've seen in a movie if you've been alive for the last 30, 40, 50 years. On
Right.
the outside, it's a good-looking building, but inside is where it comes to life because there it is. You might remember there's a famous episode of The Outer Limits with Robert Culp where he's got a glass hand and he's trying to acquire the fingers that go with it for some computer. But it has all these internal wrought iron elevators and beautiful brick interiors. And interestingly enough, as you'll know if you're a fan of Bosch, what's housed in there now mostly, aside from some lawyers' offices, because it's not too far from the courts and the police station, internal affairs for the LAPD is based in this building. How they lucked out and got a fancy building like that. But it's glorious. It's worth battling the downtown stuff. It's very worth there. Boy, and it's real. That's what it looked like.
Look at that.
Still does. They've kept it wonderfully. The Preservation Society has.
I've got the list here. I've got the list of films that this building was actually featured in. I knew I recognized it from, well, we were talking about science fiction before, from Blade Runner.
Yeah,
Was
sure.
actually filmed.
Of course.
I think the climax scene was filmed here, but they have Double Indemnity, The Unfaithful, Shockproof DOA, I, The Jury, the White Cliffs of Dover, Indestructible Man, Caprice, Marlowe, Night Strangler, Chinatown, Dreamer of Oz. It is just if there's a film that
awful word
calls
that
for
gets
something.
overused, iconic, in this
Yeah.
case is accurate. And what's interesting is the science fiction because it's not modern at all, but all of those cases where it's a science fiction location, it's the remnants of the 20th century and the 19th century, sometimes still surviving into the 21st or 25th or whatever. So that's kind of fun. Angel's Flight is this strange little cable car. And for many years, and it's, you know, a classic 2 cars on a track that cross each other in the middle. There it is. For a long time, I mean like 20, 25 years, it was all packed up in a warehouse someplace while they were renovating that hill and building modern buildings and didn't want to knock all this down. And then they put it all back together and put it back. And at the base of it is the Grand Central Market, which is a zillion food stands and butcher shops and all kinds of ethnic, basically ingredients more than, although there's places to eat there.
Wow, I did not know that. Yeah. Man, just kind of nestled in between all this stuff.
Yeah. And then, like I say, right there at the bottom, the Grand Central Market is this big building on the left. Also down there's a building called the Subway Building that's been used. That building with the 4 clones to it, that was the headquarters of the very, very unknown LA subway and also a lot of public entities, utilities and things. There was a 4,000-foot tunnel every day that the trolley services went through. It was all underground downtown, but it all came out down at this big tunnel, and it was used in a million war movies, most notably, from my memory, as Corregidor for the movie MacArthur with Gregory Peck as General MacArthur. And it's all down there, and it gets used. But anyway, the point of the story, folks, is that all of this was within this magical 30-mile zone, so it saved people a lot of money using these buildings. And, of course, all these modern ones have been used since for offices.
Right.
You know, all of the evil industrialists and bad lawyers and all those people that TV shows in Hollywood like to call out.
Right.
And of course, you know what we could do next, as long as we're in modern stuff? How about Century City? And the reason why is that Century City, the century comes from 20th Century Fox. And there it is down there on the west side. That, by the way, that golf course there, that is Rancho Park. And it's also Gotham Central Park. All of the park scenes in Batman. In fact, I was there one time as a kid when they were making one with Victor Buono as King Tut and had the Batmobile out there. But go across to the front of it, and there's the 20th Century Fox studio. And you can see the sound stages. There's all the sound stages, okay? But you see all of those tall buildings, which are offices and hotels and restaurants and shopping malls, all of that was 20th Century Fox once upon a time.
Gotcha.
Instead of just this little piece. And right in the middle there, hold it, stand still.
Oh, yeah?
I think people might recognize that building.
Oh, yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Nakatomi Plaza. There's where when Argyle picks him up from the plane and drives into the garage, and the bad guys shoot at him when he circles around that driveway. It wasn't finished yet, you see. And all of that was the backlot at Fox. And they realized that they had to, sell it all. They sold all of it to Alcoa Aluminum, of all people, who built Century City, hence 20th Century. And I remember there was a upscale market there you go. Look familiar, anybody?
Oh, yeah.
And at the mall, at the shopping center, was this place they called Century House. And the waiters all had a standard spiel. When they brought you back your change or your MasterCard receipt or whatever, they would say, "Thanks for joining us, and don't take a century to come back."
Nice.
But
I love that.
And I made a few shows over there over the years. But and then that upper section where you see all the red roofs, that was part of the studio too. And that road that's going through the middle of it, left to right, is Olympic Boulevard. And it used to be, when I was a kid, and it was all Fox, you would drive down Olympic Boulevard, and all you'd see were all of those oleander trees and a chain link fence with a sign that said 20th Century Fox, no trespassing. But that's all condos now, those buildings over there in town.
Gotcha.
And anyway.
Since we're on the studios, should we go to one of the most famous ones, Universal and Warner Brothers?
Okay, great. And Disney. They're all in a line out there in the valley.
They are.
And they were all bigger ones, too. Well, not Universal, but Warner Brothers was much bigger. So here's Universal Studios.
Yeah.
The actual studio, as opposed to the invented for Orlando studio.
Right.
That's
this is kind of interesting.
The freeway going by, and you can go over to the Black Tower, which now is so tiny compared to the newer one. But, there's the original Black Tower where my doppelganger spiritual advisor used to hold court from the top floor. Those of you who might have been fans, as I was, of a TV series called The Name of the Game, that building was also Howard Publications, and Gene Barry, as Glenn Howard, lived on top of that building in a super executive suite and apartment with his own private elevator. It's also the building used in the movie Earthquake, which I don't exactly recommend. It's pretty hokey by this time. I tried to watch it the other day, and nope. Anyway, and then when you go to the tour, you drive up that long road you see on the right. This is the Sheraton Universal, which you might also remember as the hospital in the show Emergency.
Oh, okay.
And a lot of other episodes. There was a Banachek done there and a bunch of other things. Well, when they built this hotel, here's how the movie business idiot-proofed a lot of stuff, technically. Movie lights of that era all had a cord, of course, that had to plug into something. And what they did, it was like a black or wooden or red paddle, like a block of wood with the electric contacts on the side of it. And what they did was, if it was a high voltage one, it was a thick panel. And if it was a low voltage one, it was a thin panel. And there were these boxes that were wired, wooden boxes with copper inside, and you plugged as many as you could into one before you had to go to another one, and that way you didn't overload the system and blow out everything. Well,
Sure.
Those boxes are about size of a shoebox, roughly, okay? So that means that if they're standing vertically on end, they're considerably taller, if you will, than a standard baseboard around, let's say, a hotel or hotel restaurant lobby. Well, the Sheraton was built with those boxes hiding behind the removable baseboards so they could make movies in all the public spaces of the hotel. And if you go there today, you'll still see, you'll say, well, how come that's so tall? Well, that's why. And then later they built the other hotel there just up the hill. But anyway,
Yep,
and
this
then
is
you
the Hilton
go
right
up the
here.
hill. And also at the bottom of the hill, at the bottom of the road up the hill, across the street is a station of the LA Underground subway. And also there's a thing there called the Campo de Coenga. Coenga is the name of the street that goes through the pass alongside the freeway, but it's named for a guy named Coenga, and his campo, his rancho house, is still there as a preserved historical thingamabob. And then, of course, you're into the studio, and believe it or not, it was not originally built to be a tourist attraction.
No, it was not.
Over the years, it has expanded, and there you can see all the various parts of it.
Right. This is the
Did a
theme.
few shows over there over the years, and that's Universal. And then on the backside, you see the golf course.
Right.
Well, they used to see the park along there, the trees and things. When they were shooting a movie that was supposed to be at a golf course or a park, that's the Los Angeles River going through there. That's not a freeway. And people say,
okay.
Los Angeles has a river? Yes, it does. It seldom has much water in it. But you drive out into the valley and you find these massive viaducts dry as a bone and say, what the heck is this here for? Answer, the once every 3, 4, 5 years that they do have a deluge, it floods. And
Gotcha.
they're always showing pictures of people in their car who thought they could drive through an intersection that's actually about 4 feet deep. So they built all these things. But anyway, right there where those 4 new sound stages are that you can see right in the middle, that used to be all park stuff, so that you could be shooting on the Universal Studios side of the LA River, but the background, all you saw was that greenery of the golf course. So you saw parkland and you thought you were on all that massive stuff, but you weren't. You were over here safe. But then they changed all of that and built more sound stages.
And these sound stages are to replace the sound stages that are at the lower lot close to the theme park, because they want to obviously incorporate more theme park space.
To make room for example, Nintendo. And there's the European and Roman-looking streets. And that building on the right, the big, huge warehouse there, is the prop warehouse. And then we go into, and then the lake there. You get into where they used to have the parting of the Red Sea. And alongside that lake were all those buildings that were in the Tales of the Gold Monkey. And then
your studio tour used to drive through that.
Right. And go straight down and find... I always forget whether it's 5 points or 6 points. But you have to remember that in silent days, you could do all kinds of stuff and didn't care what the guy next door was doing. And there's a place down there that's all Western streets. It's 5, let's say, 5 Points, Texas, 5 complete Western streets, each one with a livery stable and a bar and a hotel and a sheriff's office. And they all come together like a star in the middle. And the idea was that since sound didn't matter, you could say, well, Bob, I'm leaving Waco and heading for Kansas City or whatever, and ride out one, pan the camera over in the same shot, and ride back into the other. And nobody would ever know. And that's all that Mexican, South American stuff. And there was a thing on the tour there with a flash flood. There's 6 points, 5 points, whatever.
Yeah, this is 6 points, 5 points. So this is also where Leonardo DiCaprio was recently at, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, right?
Right. And there's Amity.
Amity is right here. So that right there is where...
And over there,
Jaws
this
scene.
is where the shark from Jaws would attack your tram. See those little buildings there? That was just built originally as a kind of backdrop for the Jaws thing, because if you see that road that goes dark asphalt there, it drops down and the shark comes out and it knocks over a fuel dock and a fire goes off. But all of those little New England towns that were originally built to be Amity became all there ever was of Cabot Cove for Murder, She Wrote. And they'd shoot a lot of stuff out there. And the various residential streets have been moved several times, the houses, to their own little street now up the hill a little bit. There you go.
Right, so
Colonial
here...
Street, they call it. And
here's
that was the best little whorehouse in Texas.
Correct.
That building there.
This is the War of the Worlds set right here.
Yeah.
That's all kind of destroyed. Nearby.
Falls Lake. And,
yeah, which is supposedly the site of a big expansion, but you can kind of see its proximity to...
Well, that's the backdrop of it. If you go rotate around, they're tearing it down. You're right. But that was a big place that you could fill up with water and with a sky psych. And I could tell you a story about an event there, but that would give me away a little. So I won't.
This is the Psycho house right here.
Past Psycho. There it is.
Yep. Right there. And then that's the base motel right there.
Down here, which was never there originally. That was built later for the tour. But, and to have a motel set. But there used to be a kind of a apartment house motel thing over on the other side where they did a lot of those 70s shows. And of course, this is the stuff.
This is the downtown section.
And
there's Courthouse Square. This is where
that sort of thing.
Oh, yes.
And if you come down from where you are, and right there on the corner, although they've rebuilt that park a little, but that thing with the turret in the end is, of course, the famous, also from the Sting, place where they're watching across the way. And anyway.
Yeah, these New York type facades right here. Been used in billion movies.
With a stoop. And looking at our clock and thinking we should move on to the next guy down the road, which is...
Absolutely. Sorry about
Warner
that.
Brothers. We
Warner Brothers right about here.
And there's Warner Brothers. And there's all of that. And it used to be much bigger. If you back off just a little, the original Warner's lot went all the way to Disney, basically. All of those houses and things you see in that kind of triangular area between the freeway and the river, that was all the back lot of Warner Brothers.
Whoa.
And the fake Fantasy Island house is back there. And also the Walton's house. Anyway, and that's Warner Brothers.
And they're right next to each other. So Universal's literally right here. Warner Brothers is right here. You can actually see the Warner Brothers logo.
Universal. And then, of course, just beyond that is Venue. You should pardon the popularity of that expression right now for other reasons. Venue Wish Upon a Star. You will find Walt Disney's there where you are, just beyond Warner Brothers. Although, of course, the original.
Oh, is it? Oh, yes. Yeah. There it is. The Walt Disney Studios. Wow.
And, by golly, that's the hospital where he died. Right across the street.
Right across the street.
Yep.
Which is very, very sad, but this is
and also out there, of course, is NBC, beautiful downtown Burbank. Just across the way a little bit. There's the famous shot we all see on those earnings calls with the
seven dwarves.
The dwarves. Which did you hear? I was watching an interview with Connery, Sean Connery, and he was talking about when they brought him out there for publicity for Darby O'Gill and the Little People, and he says it was a wonderful place, and he was gracious. He says now, of course, you go and it looks like the Kremlin. But Sean always spoke his mind. There's the Valley Studio, and that's Forest Lawn across the way. So you can make a movie, see Hollywood, and die. And then, it's a company town, gang, and there you can see some of our famous haze. And to give you orientation, that stuff we showed you out in Acton with the area where Vasquez rocks is about straight ahead of us, 2 ridges over. So we're still inside of 30 miles, everybody. And there's the Hollywood side. Which, of course, as some of you probably know, originally said Hollywood Land and was an ad for a real estate development. But the real estate development sold out, and they kept that part of the sign alive over the years.
What's really cool about this is on the other side of the Hollywood sign, on the other side of this mountain here, if you're looking at it from the Universal side, you can actually see where they filmed the intro of MASH with those helicopters coming over that ridge there.
Yeah, although that's out, of course, MASH was out at the Fox Ranch in Malibu.
Right.
And also out there, I have pictures. A friend of mine was gripping that. They built the miniature buildings for Towering Inferno and set them on fire out there at the Fox Ranch. But
well, that was very illuminating. I think we gotta have a part 2 on this because
hey,
and
there's
hopefully
Lake
I get
Hollywood.
better.
I was talking about earthquake. You see the lake there? when they first show the signs of a crack in the wall and that, hey, there was a quiver, and that's like Hollywood. That damn. Anyhow, we hope this wasn't too disjointed and rambunctious, but the purpose was to show you that you don't have to go very far to shoot most of the world. And of course, in the grand old days, sometime we'll go down to Culver City with this and show you what was MGM. And MGM had a lot that had every country in the world represented architecturally. And so you literally, that's how the man from U.N.C.L.E. was able to go to all those exotic locations on a TV show budget because, Tangiers and Tokyo and everything else were all a short golf cart ride away.
To leave people with a sense of orientation of where all we've been, you can actually see downtown Los Angeles and kind of the distance right there, kind of the foreground. You see that beautiful park across from Universal. You have Warner Brothers and Disney right there on the very left of frame, and Hollywood Mountains and so forth.
Sort of rotate to the right, pan to the right, we might be able to see Fox or Century City. Yeah. And then
Culver City, West Hollywood.
We didn't show you is MGM, and between here and there in the middle of Hollywood is Paramount, and then you can see all the way to the coast where the pier was that we went.
Where the pier was.
So
wow. It is a small town, folks.
That's why
I think this was a very instructive type of tour here. Really giving a lot of people, in which we have viewers from all across the country, a lot of context for what we're talking about each and every day.
And just remember, the whole point of it was we don't have to pay you for lunch or to drive your car out there. And I would guess that if this was all being set up today, with the increase in traffic, that 30 miles would have to be about 10 or 15, and we would lose a lot of these things because it takes longer to get 30 miles now than it ever did and longer to get home. So
if you've ever tried to drive from Anaheim to Los Angeles or Universal, it is a while. You gotta have at least allot yourself 2 to 3 hours just to get that distance. And
when I lived on the west side, right there near that area of Century City that we showed that was Fox, I grew up basically 5 blocks from there. And when I would go to Disneyland when I was old enough to drive myself, it was maybe a 30, 45-minute ride. Now, got to be 2 or 3 hours at least. Yeah, especially rush hour, especially in the morning. So thank you so much, Lou, for taking us through that. Like I said, we'll have, because we only really scratched the surface. I know Lou was bringing up all kinds of stuff when I was over there the other day. So you know what happens when you get me started. And we will have, of course, our usual question show very soon. Because we have oodles, and tell them how to send us more, by the way. We put that email in.
Absolutely, 100%. You can go ahead and email us at t3ponline@yahoo.com right there if you want to go ahead and submit a question and make sure it is asked. That is the best way to do it. Also, you can use the comment section. But folks, a lot of these videos come out, and I try to gather them all, but sometimes I don't see them all. So if you have issues getting your question asked, make sure to use that email right down there below. Thank you so much, Lou, for taking us through that amazing tour right there. And we'll see you all next time on Hollywood Backlot with Lou and you. Take care, folks. Please comment, like, and share this video. And don't forget to subscribe to That Park Place Podcasts Online, your source for exclusive content and highlights from WDW Pro, The Pro Show, and That Park Place for all the news that should be fun.